Hi everyone, this is William from the Headphone Experience. I'm here tonight with my first impressions of the Hifiman EF-400 headphone amp. I've done reviews of several Hifiman headphones in the past, but this is the first Hifiman headphone amp that I have reviewed. This was loaned to me for review by Hifiman Audio, and it currently sells at $599 US. This is a headphone amp with a built-in R2R DAC, and it is fully balanced. Give you a quick look at it here, and then I'll show you a close-up view with more detail, show you the back in just a minute. The DAC in this unit is Hifiman's own Himalaya R2R DAC, so instead of a conventional Delta Sigma chip DAC, this does use an R2R ladder DAC, and I hadn't reviewed an R2R DAC until, maybe 8 months ago, 10 months ago, and I know they don't measure as well as the Delta Sigma DACs, but I really do like the sound of them, and this is no exception. So far I'm really liking what I'm hearing. This amp is a Class AB amp, and it's rated at 4.4 watts per channel. Hifiman's website doesn't list or doesn't specify what impedance that would be into, what impedance of headphones, but it looks like that's into 36 ohms. I'm not positive on that though. Anyway, this unit has two digital inputs, a USB Type-C and a USB Type-B, but it does not have an input selector switch, so I don't think you can use them both at the same time. I think it's actually one input with two different choices, so you can use two different types of cables, but I don't think you can hook two USB sources up at the same time because, like I said, there's no input selection switch. This unit has 6 analog outputs, and that would be starting on the front here. You have 4 different headphone outputs. You've got your 3.5 millimeter single-ended and 6.3 millimeter single-ended. And then you've got a 4.4 millimeter balanced headphone out and a 4-pin full-size XLR headphone out. And then on the rear of the unit, you've got 2 sets of outputs, and I wasn't sure if these were line out, which would be a fixed output, or if they are volume controlled, which would be a preamp output, but I haven't tried them yet, and like I said, this is just the first impressions. I've had this about a week. But it looks like from Hifiman's website that they are line out, which I would assume that means they are fixed output. So basically that means you could use this as a standalone DAC and then use it and then go from the outputs, either the single-ended or balanced, into another amp. And they are, if I didn't mention it, they are RCA single-ended and XLR balanced outputs. So anyway, on the front of this unit you have your volume control, and then you have a 4-way function switch. And the 4-way switch controls your gain and whether you're in oversampling or non-oversampling mode. So you basically have 4 choices. You can run it in low gain, either with oversampling or no oversampling, or you can run it in high gain with oversampling or no oversampling. On the rear you have a power switch. The dimensions of this are 9 inches wide, about 9.5 inches deep, and about 2.25 inches tall, and it's pretty heavy at almost 7 pounds. This has got some substantial weight to it. So anyway, I do want to give you a closer up view of this amp, and I don't know if you can see it, but anyway, this is your volume control, and then there's no on and off there, that's just volume. And then this here would be your 4-way function switch, where you can go through your low gain, high gain, oversampling and non-oversampling. Then you've got your 4 headphone outputs here. You've got your 6.3, 3.5, 4.4, and 4-pin XLR. Then on the rear of the unit, you've got your power on off, and then you've got your two USB inputs, USB-B and USB-C, and then your RCA analog outputs and your XLR analog outputs. And like I said, I believe that these are fixed. I will confirm that. I will try these before I do my final review, let you know for sure that they're not preamp outs with volume control, but I'm pretty sure Hifiman calls them line out, so I'm almost positive those are fixed outputs. So anyway, kind of lost my spot here. I did want to talk about my equipment that I use to review this. And because this only has USB inputs and no analog inputs or no optical or coaxial outputs, I'm kind of restricted to my desktop only. I can't hook it up to my main system because I don't have the optical or the coaxial inputs to hook it up to a CD player or whatever that I normally use. So my only options here are my desktop. So I'm using this as a desktop amp, and I've got it hooked up to my HP desktop computer, which runs on Windows 10. And I did want to mention that all I had to do is plug it in with the USB cable, and within probably 30 seconds it was all set up and ready to go. I didn't have to do anything. It just connected to the computer, and the computer said it was connected and ready to use, so that was it. Headphones, I've used a few different headphones on this so far, primarily Hifiman, the HE-400 SE, the HE-560, the Edition XS, and the Ananda, which I just got in for review about a week ago at the same time I got this. So that, my first impressions on that will be coming up probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 days from now. So I'm pretty excited about that. The Ananda definitely has a big wow factor to it, and I wasn't really expecting that. So anyway, getting into the sound of this, and like I said, I've had it a week. I've put maybe 3-4 hours in on it. Haven't really compared it to anything else yet, and that will be a little bit difficult because with only USB inputs on this, I don't have the option of comparing it to some of my other amps that are hooked up to my main system. So I'm kind of restricted to the desktop, and the desktop restricts me on size. Like, I can't bring in my Audio GD Master 9 and R8 stack and compare that to this because they just won't fit on my desk. So, but what I can do, I've got the iFi Zendac, which is quite a bit lower priced. I can compare it to that. I've got the iFi Zendac Zencan Signature stack, which actually equals about the same price as this. I can compare to that. And then I've got the Topping D70S MQA version DAC, which I really like, and the Singzer SA1 amp. And it's a really nice stack. It goes for about twice the price of this, but I can't compare that to that because it will fit on my desk. And I'll see if maybe I've still got the Burst Conductor 3 reference, and I could probably bring that in and try that and give it a comparison, even though that's almost 3 times the price, so really not a fair comparison. But so far, I'm pretty impressed with the sound of this unit. So anyway, getting into the sound, I would say the sound, it's got a nice, slightly warm, neutral sound to it, has very clean and detailed sound. Very impressed with just the level of the detail coming out of this. It's kind of surprised me. The sound has good body, it has good weight, it has good dynamics, and it's nice and punchy. So this combined with the Ananda, which is, like I said, has kind of a high wow factor. That's primarily what I've used this with so far, and really impressed. It's a really good combination. So what this amp doesn't do, it never sounds thin, it never sounds analytical, and it doesn't sound soft. It's got, like I said, it's a nice dynamic, punchy amp. The bass seems to be tight and solid and well controlled. The frequency extension on both ends is, no roll off at all that I can hear at either end. Has a good sound stage. It seems to have good width and pretty decent depth. I'm definitely hearing some layering to the sound. And the biggest thing about this amp so far, though, is the power. It seems to just have plenty of power for anything I've thrown at it. The two hardest to drive headphones I have are the HE-400 SE, which is Hifiman's budget planer that sells for $109, but it does need some pretty serious power, or the bass is weak and muddy sounding. And then the HE-560 is probably, other than the Savara or the 1000, the HE6, the HE560 is one of Hifiman's harder to drive headphones, and the hardest to drive headphone that I've reviewed up to this point. So anyway, I'll start with the HE400. Even in low gain, and it doesn't matter either from the single-ended outputs, even in low gain, it does a good job with the HE400. From the single-ended outputs and high gain, it does great. No shortage of power whatsoever. And then from the balanced outputs, both low gain and high gain, it does fine with that headphone. No lacking. You don't feel short on power at all. The HE560, which is a higher, it's I think 55 or 60 ohms, 55 I think, where I think the HE400 SE is only about 25 ohms. So anyway, the HE560 is the hardest to drive headphone that I have. And I tried it first from the single-ended outputs, and in low gain, it's adequate. It does okay, but it's not driving the headphone to the full potential. But even from the single-ended output, which would be the 6.3 millimeter I used, and in high gain, it did a great job. I felt like the headphone sounded the way it should. And then from the balanced outputs, even in low gain, it did a very good job, and in high gain, it did great. I mean, it just more power than that headphone will ever need. So I've heard that this amp can produce enough power for even the HE6 or the Savara. I don't have either of those, so I can't tell you, but the HE560, it does a great job, even from the single-ended output. If you've only got a 6.3 millimeter cable, you don't have to rush out and buy a balanced cable to use this with the HE560 or the HE400 SE. Even from the single-ended outputs, it does a very good job, especially on high gain with both of those headphones. So, which there are a lot of amps I've reviewed in the past that would do a great job with the HE560 from the balanced outputs, but when you went to the single-ended outputs, it really fell short. And the Singer XA1 is one of those headphone amps. Great job with the HE560 from the balanced output, but not enough power from the single-ended output, where this amp, either single-ended or balance, is going to give you plenty of power with either of the headphones. The other headphones, the Edition XS, the Ananda, both sound great with this amp. This amp, you have a choice of oversampling or non-oversampling, and to tell you the truth, the two R2R decks that I've reviewed recently, which would be the Audio GD R8 MK2 and the Denafrips Pontus 2. Both of those I think I eventually settled on preferring the non-oversampling mode on both of those. I think they sounded a little bit better. But so far, and like I said, I've only got a week on this, but so far I think I'm preferring the oversampling mode on this amp, whether I'm in low gain or high gain. It just seems to have a little bit larger, more three-dimensional soundstage, a little more depth to the soundstage, and I'm not positive on that yet. Like I said, I've only had this amp a week, but so far I'm leaning towards preferring the oversampling mode. Give me just a second, please. I want to apologize for the noise of the fan and the air conditioner in the background. But the temperature here today was 102 degrees, and that's actual temperature, not the heat index. So even for southern Missouri, that's pretty hot. So anyway, trying to keep cool the best I can. So anyway, what I don't like about this amp, what I don't like is there's only USB input. I would really like to have optical and coax inputs on this. That way I could plug it into a CD player, whatever I want, or a CD transport, run a digital signal into this amp. This amp seems to have a great DAC, it seems to be a great amp, but I'm very limited on what I can use it for. All I can do is hook it up to my desktop computer or my Android tablet and run it from USB. So that's what I don't like about it. Well, there's one other thing. An amp of this quality, I'd like to also see an analog input. So I could hook up another DAC or, you know, go from the analog outputs of a CD player or something like that. So those are the things that bother me. It's going to be a deal killer for some people. But other people, if your intention is to use this as a desktop amp and use a USB input, and like I said, you've got two different choices of plug type, USB type C and type B. If that's all you need, then that's not a problem. But for me, I would prefer to have coaxial and optical digital inputs on this. What I do like, the thing has great power, it seems to be very clean and detailed, and I do like the 4 headphone jacks on the front. I like that option, and the reason why is, say one of my headphones, the HE560, I've had that for, I don't know, like 5 years or so. The HE560 has 2.2 millimeter plugs at the ear cups. And I've only got 2 cables for that. One is a 6.3 millimeter single-ended, and the other is a 4-pin XLR balanced. So if I've got either of those, I'm fine. But a lot of amps now have a 4.4 millimeter balanced output without the 4-pin XLR, and I can't use that headphone from the balanced output. So I like the option. I like the 3.5 millimeter is nice having it there. If you've got some, you don't have to use an adapter. You've got the 6.3 single-ended, but I like having both the 4.4 millimeter balanced and the XLR. So that's a feature I really like. But so far, I would say that this, I'm very impressed. The thing definitely has power. It's definitely clean and detailed. It's got a good sound stage with a lot of dimension to it. Depth and layering. And so far I'm really impressed. So I'm going to try to compare this to what I can using it as a desktop amp and try it with some other headphones, some higher end headphones. I've got the Aria Stealth still here that I can hook up, and I've still got the ZMF Atrium, so I want to see how it works out with that headphone and a couple of Kennerton headphones. And I'll get back to you in hopefully a couple of weeks, but probably more realistically about a month, I'll get back with a full review on this. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Once again, this is William from the Headphone Experience. If this video has helped you, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. And you're all welcome to join us at the Headphone Experience on Facebook. We are up to, I think, 17.7 thousand, almost 17.8 thousand members. We've been growing at 25, 30 members a day lately. So, like to see you all over there. And once again, thanks for watching my video.